Hey YouTube. Okay, this video right now is the first in the Camp Cookery series. Okay, we have a playlist called Camp Cookery right now. There are a few videos in it, but they are not part of this series because this series is intended to be more than just recipes or videos of me cooking and enjoying a meal that you can. The playlist is called Camp Cookery, and it is taken from Horace Kephart's book of the same name. This will be my primary reference, but it is not my only reference. I am also leaning heavily on Elon Jessup's Motor Camping, the writings of Claude Fordyce, some Warren Miller, some Buzzicott, and articles in the popular sporting magazines of the early 20th century, Outing, Sports Afield, Fur Trader, Trapper, and others. Okay? Where those references agree, I'm going to concentrate on that, and I'm going to call that the norm. Okay? And speaking of norm, this video is going to include a lot of references to this right here. Okay, that is the waterproof food bag as described by Horace Kephart in Camp Cookery. But we do find similar references and similar designs that no pictures. Most of these small articles were described in a paragraph in an article or a book, just as this did. And just to show you that I'm not crazy, that I got close to the original design, and I'm not just here trying to sell you stuff I have on Vico Outfitters. What I want to show you right now is a picture taken in 1910 in Washington State of a hunting party out in the woods. And I want you to look very closely at the guy on the left, because next to him is something that looks like this. Okay? It's a two-part bag. You can put it together in two chambers. You can fill the lower half, tie it in the middle, then fill the upper half for whatever reason you might want. Or if it's waterproofed and you want it double waterproof, you take that first half and skinny it down over the bottom half and tie it shut. Okay, I have a video that shows you how to make these. I will link to that at the end of this video. Or if you don't want to make them, if you don't think you have the skill, you do. You should buy a sewing machine. You have the skill. If you don't think you have the skill, or if you don't have the time, you can go to Vico Expedition Outfitters. We've changed our name to Vico Outfitters Tent and Awning as a consequence of the hack that caused us to start a new channel. We won't get into that right now. So this type of bag was common. I'm not selling you some uncommon thing that I just made up out of my head. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Now, before we go too far, I want to give a belated thank you to my buddy Nathan. You saw a video, hopefully you saw a video. If not, I'll link to it at the end of the video, where Nathan discusses a pack and a compact tent that he found. And we had that discussion at the Kingsbury Air Fair in Kingsbury, Texas, back in November. Okay, and he gave me this little jewel right here. Okay, and the reason why he gave it to me, he saw it in a store, and he knew, and some of you don't, that my first name is Kent. Okay, and this is the Kent Sportsman's Knife, chrome with a K, chrome plated. These were made by Camillus between 1931 and 1955 and were sold in the Woolworth stores. It's kind of the perfect 1930s everyday knife. Okay, it's got a nice drop point on it, and it's that makes it a little bit different from my Kephart clone made by a local craftsman. This is made from an old hickory knife, but it's got the spear point, whereas this has a drop point. Okay, and I can do things with this drop point that I can't do with this. So I will be wearing both knives. Nathan, thank you. You'll see this in videos to come until I stop making videos. Okay, let's get to the crux of the biscuit. And where else are you going to get a Frank Zappa reference on YouTube than right here at Bannerman's Camp? We get to the crux of the biscuit, the Camp Cookery series. What we're going to try to do here is we're going to break things down into different subject areas. We'll discuss that subject area, and then we'll go out in the woods and we'll cook something. Okay, I don't want this to be a recipe series, and I don't want this to be just videos of me cooking and eating something that you can't. Okay, we're going to start this right now with basic ingredients and how to pack them. Then we're going to move into recommended cooking gear. Okay, and then we'll go out and we'll cook something, and then we'll start working on recipes, historic recipes from books, and concentrate on those mainly. Okay, we're also going to do a video, a coming to terms video on coming to terms with camps, because there are actually 3 different kinds. We'll get into them. I'm going to briefly tell you what they are right now. It's the base camp, the spike camp, and the trail camp. Okay. The subject of the video where we go out and cook, the scenario there is Vico Outfitters, Tent and Awning, moi and my team, which only exists in my mind, except I have a dog that helps me out. Vico Outfitters has been contracted by a group of hunters from up north who want to come down and see Texas, and they have contracted with me for a hunt, and we're together with other contractors, other clients in a base camp, but these guys want to go out to a special area and hunt some pigs out there, some javelina. So we're going to do a spike camp for that purpose, 10-15 miles away from base camp. Okay, and in that video coming up, I will be setting up a spike camp. The purpose of that is actually going to be to test and get to know my folding oven. Okay, I just gave you too much information. Let's talk about basic ingredients. Okay, there are 3 types of basic ingredients. Okay, and then it's not necessarily types of food. Okay, there are dry ingredients, there are ingredients that are near liquid, and there are liquid. Each one of them has their own special needs as far as packaging is concerned. Most important for dry goods is keeping it away from moisture. If you're carrying a whole bunch of oatmeal out into the woods so that you can have breakfast for a week and it gets wet, you get breakfast for the rest of the day and that's it. Okay, that's why Kephart spent so much time describing how to make these food bags, and that's why you're going to see a lot of them in the rest of this video. Okay, so as an example of that, This is my cornmeal. This is going to be featured as part of the video coming up, where this will provide me part of my supper meal and part of my breakfast meal. We'll be cooking 2 meals, supper and breakfast, okay? So this will be part of my supper meal and part of my breakfast meal, okay? All right, we'll get into the others here in a minute. Okay, let's talk about near liquid ingredients, okay? And that would be stuff like this right here. And this right here is going to always be in my Keewaydin bag. The ingredients for trips where I'm making specific meals, those will change, okay? But there are some things that will always be in the Keewaydin bag. They will always be in the kit, and this is chief among them. This is clarified butter. This is another thing that Kephart spends a lot of time on, explaining how to make the clarified butter. Okay, we have put that into a ball mason jar, okay, common to the period, with the screw top, okay, so that it can be opened and closed. And you might notice there's a piece of white stuff smocked on top of it, okay. This is what Kephart refers to as surgeon's adhesive plaster, okay. In my day, in the 1950s and the 1960s, we called this adhesive tape, okay? And it is could be found in first aid kits, or you could put it in your medicine cabinet. Comes in rolls. It is rubberized cotton with an adhesive backing, and it is the duct tape of the early 20th century. You could use it on anything. What is great about adhesive tape, this stuff here, is that you can repeatedly open it and close it, okay? It doesn't lose its adherent properties through repeated use. And it's white on the top, okay? It's white. I can label the contents of the bottle by writing on the top. Now, unfortunately, you cannot buy this in drugstores anymore. The way they make adhesive tape, medical adhesive, first aid tape, if you will, the way they make it is different. Okay, it looks 21st century because it is 21st century, but they still make adhesive tape. They just don't call it that. This is called gaffer's tape now. It's used in the theatrical industry, and you can buy it on Amazon for a couple of bucks, and in 2 different widths or 3 different widths. I believe this is the 2-inch wide. Okay, and I do that on all of my jars. Okay, all of the jars and tins that we see that could open by accident, I got a backup plan by using the adhesive tape to hold it down. Okay, now I use ghee rather than going through the trouble that Kephart describes for making clarified butter. Ghee is essentially the same kind of thing. There's a slight difference in cooking method, but this is the stuff. This is what makes magic in the camp. Okay? You can use it to fry in. You can use it as butter. You can use it in recipes as butter. You just have to be aware of the fact that once it's turned into clarified butter, it becomes super butter. Okay? If a recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of butter, use 2 tablespoons of clarified butter. Okay? So this is going to be a permanent, this is not only is this a way to pack, but it is also a permanent ingredient. Okay? You should, now you could also put bacon grease and lard in a container like this. Okay, I like putting it in a ball jar so I can see what it is. Okay, another ingredient that you might not necessarily take all the time, that is another near liquid ingredient, although it is a lot closer to liquid than the clarified butter, and it is this right here, K-rose syrup. Okay, K-rose syrup is a corn syrup. It actually started the population on a bad track because it started the practice of using corn sweeteners rather than actual sugar, and we're seeing some health implications today, the overuse of corn sweeteners. There are a number of different brands. It's popular in the South. It takes the place in many instances where maple syrup would be used today. And that's because in the early 20th century, maple syrup was kind of a regional product. As a matter of fact, most products in the early 20th century were regional. Okay, national brands weren't as prevalent in the early 20th century. We'll get into that in another video. But I'll just tell you, K-rose syrup was so prized in the First World War that it was actually used the same way cigarettes are in prison, as a type of currency. Okay, doughboys would nick a few cans of K-rose syrup from the YMCA or the mess hall and trade it. It is good stuff. It tastes real good on pancakes and waffles. It can also be used as a sweetener instead of sugar. Molasses is also something that can be put in a bottle like this that can be used as a sweetener. Okay? So, also, other near liquids can be kept in friction top tins. Okay? Although, this is not the best way. The best way is a jar with a screw top lid. But a tin like this can be used. Okay? And we're going to get into dry ingredients now. I'm kind of using this as a segue to go from liquid and near liquid to dry ingredients. This tin, and again, most of this stuff, this you can see on Vico tent and awning. I sell these, and I've gone to the trouble of adding wax to the lining to make it watertight. But because it's got a friction lid, it can leak out the top. So what I'm trying to say is, if you use this for near liquid ingredients, try to make sure that it stays upright. Okay? Another way of doing that, and something I do with all of these liquid and near liquid things, is I will put them, each one will get its own #1 food safe bag. Let me pop that open here. Okay, I will put it in a waterproof bag, and again, I will use my #1 bags that I make and sell on Vico. But I put that jar inside one of these bags and then put it inside another large waterproof bag. Okay, that way, if the jar gets broken or the lid comes loose, the contents only go inside this bag, and it only boogers up the inside of this bag instead of everything else in the bag. Okay, did I make a point? I sure hope you better pay attention. You're going to get your stuff boogered up if you don't. Okay, so those are the ways to carry liquid and near liquid stuff, and how to ensure you don't booger up your other stuff. Okay, jars, screw top lids, adhesive plaster to secure them and label them and put them inside their own waterproof bag. and then inside another bag. Okay, now let's move on to the dry ingredients. And again, this is coffee. You can get that way you can read it. Okay, now Elon Jessup in his book Motor Camping recommends, this is something I've been doing for years. He recommends packaging your coffee. Get this open. This gives me an opportunity to show you something you should do, because I didn't do it. Before you seal this, bend over about a ½ inch, okay, so that it doesn't stick all the way down. Okay, you got something you can reach and grab. Okay, see how well that adheres. I'm going to do that to this one on this side too. I'm making my video unnecessarily long with this stuff, and allow me to apologize. Okay. Again, this is stuff I sell on Vico. It does look exactly like the one that Jessup has in his book, and some dry ingredients, especially coffee, need to be kept in an airtight container. You could also keep it inside one of those ball jars, okay, to keep it airtight. I've chosen this, and just to show you, this is what Jessup recommends. You're going to make cowboy coffee, but you're going to make sure that you keep it inside a muslin bag. I sell these too. And that way you drop it in your water, you make your coffee, you brew your coffee up, and then you pull the bag out and dump out the grounds, give it a good shake, take it home and wash it. And you're not going to get grounds in your teeth. You don't have to drop cold water into your cowboy coffee at the end to make the grounds go down. In other words, grounds aren't a problem in your coffee anymore if you package them the way Elon Jessup recommends. Okay, so dry ingredients that need to be airtight: friction lid cans, and again, adhesive plaster with a label. I'm going to show you this. I've been looking for these to see if I could sell them on Vico. I haven't been able to find them. This is a gift from a friend from a couple of years ago who got it to me from watching the other channel, the one that died. This is a piece of bamboo about 4 inches long. We find this in many references in the early 20th century. There is a partition here, natural partition in the bamboo, and on one side I've got the letter P on my adhesive plaster, and on the other side I've got the letter S, okay, salt and pepper. And again, I have a cork stopper, but it's held in place with adhesive plaster. I stripped this to 1 inch wide off of that 3 inch wide roll that I got the other stuff, okay? Airtight, because there's salt in here, and Kephart recommends not putting salt in metal containers or in the food safe bags, okay? Put it in a metal container and it will promote corrosion, okay? And that will contaminate your salt and it will booger up the container. You put it in a waterproof bag, and because it's granular and abrasive, it will eventually work its way out of that bag, okay, and it will booger up whatever it's in with. This, if I keep it this way, my salt isn't going to get out, and I'm not going to have it wandering around the bottom of my pack or my key wading bag, okay? This is another thing that is always in the key wading bag, is permanent ingredients. Now, Kephart also recommends using cardboard mailing tubes, although he prefers, and I'm looking for something over here, yeah. He prefers using screw top mailing tubes. I'm looking for those so I can sell those as well. It was a very common item, okay? Cardboard packaging like this. And as I said before, a lot of products, particularly food products, were made locally or regionally. Like this right here, this is from, let me get my cheaters on, and I will be briefly out of the frame while I retrieve it from the floor. This is from the Gilman Brothers Pharmacy, okay, wholesale druggist in Boston, Massachusetts. Now, you can see here that it isn't a drug, okay? It's spices, it's sage leaves, okay? And it is packaged in this cardboard packaging. The top and bottom are glued, and you might not, let's see if you can see that. See, there's a piece of paper tape around the edge, closing it, and you can stick your fingernail or a knife blade in there and open it up. Although the original owner of this, from I don't know how long ago, he elected to take the bottom off. Okay, we've got another example here of a cardboard packaging. This is from the Big U Spice Company of Hickory, North Carolina. Okay, and again, Big U, this is something I find advertised in local magazines and newspapers, not as a national brand. Anyway, the ingredients for the breakfast that we're going to have include dehydrated potatoes. Okay, what I have in here are dry hash browns. Okay, dry hash browns is the original form of dehydrated potatoes. Okay, that was actually the first time they made dehydrated potatoes. Dehydrating vegetables have been going on for millennia. Dehydrating potatoes was a nut that was tough to crack because there was so much moisture in it that when you took it out, you didn't have anything left. A guy developed a process whereby you shred the potatoes, partially cook them, and then dehydrate them, and you ended up with what is hash brown potatoes today. That's part of the recipe for breakfast, and this is a way to carry dry ingredients. I have these for sale on Vico Outfitters. I mention that because nobody else has them. Okay, nobody else has done the level of research I have on carrying early 20th century stuff. Okay, hopefully someday somebody will come out and compete with me on this. I'm going to come out with a new version of this where I will ship these in a standard length with a blank label that you can fill in and glue. Okay, and like I said, I am looking for the cardboard mailing tubes that Kephart references that have the metal screw top lid. You can find all sorts of vintage examples, just can't find one that's new that you can put food in safely. Okay. Another thing that I always carry, and another way of carrying food into the field, is original packaging. Keep it in the original box it came in, if it's light enough. And let me just take a step to the side here and say why we're carrying things like dehydrated potatoes, and also, let me just get over here. Got too far away from my stuff. Dehydrated potatoes and desiccated onions, which are going with me. Also, I use a lot of dehydrated eggs as well in the same kind of packaging. But you can use the original packaging. I don't offer these on the website anymore. But if you send me, if you go to Vico and send me an email on the address that's on the Vico Outfitters and say, hey, can you make me one of these Cherokee tea boxes? I'll see if I can't talk myself into it. The reason why I'm showing you this, And I've been carrying this with me and using it on every one of my classic camping trips since about 2018. Okay, I just open it, I put a little bit of glue stick on there, open it, use the contents, bring it home, wash, rinse, and repeat. But the reason why I'm showing you this is because I'm showing you something that a lot of people don't even know about. Okay, I know about it. I knew about it when I was a little bitty boy. Okay, in the 1950s. Can you believe that? The 1950s. In my grandma's house. My grandmother was born in the 1890s. Okay, and this is how people made tea until the second half of the 20th century. Okay, this is a tea strainer. At the time, tea was available in loose leaf, okay, in boxes, or in bricks, highly compressed bricks, and you would knock off a chunk and pulverize it and put the leaves inside this strainer. Okay, and it's got a hook that you can hook on the side of your coffee pot or your mug and let your tea steep in that. Okay, these two things are always in the key waiting bag, and they are always in their own waterproof bag. Okay, so one more method of one more food group I should have mentioned earlier: meat. Okay, meat needs to be kept cold unless it is in a form that was preserved meat that had been in use for thousands of years. Okay, you got to be careful how you choose it, but sausage is one. Okay, and these can be kept in a food safe bag. Some people wrap them in waxed canvas. I use aluminum foil. Aluminum foil was available in the early 20th century. I learned about a year ago that wax paper wasn't in as common use as aluminum foil was in the early 20th century. I thought wax paper came before aluminum foil did. That's not true. Aluminum foil came first. Okay, so I wrap my meat in aluminum foil partially as a means of trying to keep the odor from coming out and attracting vermin, and to keep it as fresh as possible. But it's sausage, and sausage is a historic method of preserving meat for the long term. Also, dried meats and smoked meats and cured meats like bacon. Okay, you can wrap it in aluminum foil and, of course, put it in its own waterproof bag. I also have, and I'm not going to tell you what this is because this is the special feature of the recipe that I'll be cooking with when we go out to the field to cook, and that is this stuff right here. Okay, remember this picture. There will be a test at that other video. Okay, but this is a super secret special ingredient that you can buy anywhere and has 1,001 uses. Okay, so stay tuned for that video. Now, when I go to the woods, anyway, that's it. That's your 3 ingredient groups: dried ingredients, near liquid and near liquid, and your meats. Okay? And those are how they are recommended to be packaged in multiple references that I find going through magazines and books of the early 20th century period. The birth of bushcraft, if you will. Okay? I keep them all in these bags inside my key waiting bag, or you can keep them in your pack. I am trying to get more key waiting bags produced. Okay? The video that's coming up when I go out to the woods, I'll be able to go out in a week. I was going to go out today, but it's going to rain day after tomorrow, and I need 3 days in the woods to shoot video. Although I might spend 4 days if it's really nice. Anyway, there'll be several videos coming out of that. One is the primary purpose I'm going for is to learn how to use that reflector oven I got and to test some assumptions I've made about how I can use it. I'm going to admit to you right now, I have never used a reflector oven. I have always used that little oven I showed you. I can only recommend 2 videos at the end of this, so go to the channel and look for the oven, the stovetop oven I use. So there will be that video. Okay, there will be that video on the reflector oven and using it with the folding stove. We'll be doing a video on a requested video from a viewer who asked me to reshoot a video I had done in the old Sarge Vining channel on sleepwear for cold weather in the 1920s and the 1930s. And because it's winter in Texas, I need warm sleepwear. So we'll be showing you some of that. And we will also show you these 2 meals that we'll be making. I'll be making a supper meal, kind of replicating the outfitter arriving at the spike camp and setting it up and only having time for a quick meal, and then the breakfast meal the next day. Okay, at which point the hunters should show up with a bunch of meat that we can cook for the rest of the day, and we might get a chance to do a video like that sometime in the future. Okay, alrighty, between now and then, we'll see you down the trail.